Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 220. Hope you're amazing as always, I really do. Hope you're having an amazing week. Do you know what? I hope you're having an amazing year already. Isn't it a little crazy that we're on the 21st of, 21st? No, we're not. We're on the 22nd already. The 22nd of January. It was interesting looking at so many different people's lives. Some people took Christmas off and you might have done the same. Some people took New Year off. Some people are just getting back going right now. They really are. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. Personally, I was back hustling on day 2. 2nd of January. Why? I just wanted to make sure that I created momentum this year. But what was interesting is that not everyone's the same. And I've been getting loads of messages from people just saying they're getting in their own way already. They just can't get that, press that button. They can't press go. And I get it. We've all been there. Definitely all been there. Sometimes things get overwhelming. Sometimes your mind's just too cluttered, or you're not having clarity, or you're just stressed out, or you're trying to deal with personal things. Maybe there's health issues. Maybe you're trying to deal with relationships, right? There's so many different things in our life that we have to deal with, but what we get caught up on is one thing. And that one thing is what? Making money, right? But there's so many other areas of life that we have to balance. Now, is money important? Damn right money is important. Should you be having lots? Yeah, you should be having lots. But the truth is, what you're going to do with it once you've got it. It's so interesting because I don't know what you're earning right now. You might be earning $200,000 a month. You might be earning $5,000 a month. But the truth is, once you've got about 6 months, a year's money sitting in the bank, you kind of feel safe. Do you know what I mean? You kind of feel good. You kind of feel safe. And this can lead to the same issue as people who are stuck in overwhelm and aren't taking action either. Because both of those parties can take action. Whether you've got no money in the bank, you can get stressed and overwhelmed and you don't know what to do next, so you don't bring more money into the bank. The other side is you've gotten a certain amount in your bank, you feel safe, and so then guess what? You're still having the same issues of not being able to pull the trigger because you feel you're in your comfort zone, right? So then you're not feeling pain. And if you're not feeling pain, often we don't take action. And it's the same with people who are feeling pain. If you are feeling pain, it can be overwhelming, which means we don't take action. Right? Makes sense? Yes, I did go on a bit of a rant there. I get it. But that's what the show's about today. That's my whole point. I want to show you some tactics of how to actually take action, move forwards, do something different, and actually start creating momentum. And that's all I want for you, is to start this year the right way. Sound good? Awesome. And hopefully you loved the previous episode. I had great feedback from that. Yes, about Nitro, your new year, the little bonus things. Hopefully you've been to those links. I'll explain more in a little bit. But definitely make sure that you have checked my top 10 lessons for 2018 to blow your 2019 up. In a good way. Make sure you're checking those links out because I've had some great feedback and people loved them. They really did. And speaking of loving things, if you're a new listener, then welcome to Mindset by Design. Always nice to have a new listener. And what we're here on about Mindset by Design, about building new behaviors, new ways of thinking, feeling, acting, using your unconscious mind, your conscious mind, dealing with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm a world-class expert at, neuro-retrainings, which are my own systems, neuroscience, gamification, behavioral psychology, and a splash of spirituality. Why? All to bring you one thing: absolute dominant results. We want to change your beliefs around what's possible. We want to affect your nervous system. And I want you to be able to perform at a world-class level no matter what. Sound good? Awesome. I also want you to make sure that you're using this podcast a little bit differently from the others. You're using it like a library. I want you to go back and just scan the actual titles and see which one jumps out at you. Because the one that jumps out at you, guess what? It's probably the one you're supposed to listen to. And I've had so many people over the years combine episodes and make their own, their own coaching program. And I want you to be able to do the same. If you scroll right back to the start, well, guess what? We've got some world-class guests. In fact, every guest has been world-class, and they're there for you. And the other cool thing is I'm just about to get a ton more guests on because I haven't done it in a while. I put some random people on, but I'm actually going to bring on, a ton of guests because I want to jump into some people's brains, and I know you love hearing from them too. So that's the podcast. So make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're writing me a review because I love you for it. Sound good? Awesome. Speaking of sounding good, just before we jump into the episode, I want to make sure that you're heading over to the show notes. A few different things. Well, you've got one, your business brain assessment. It's free. It's the world's first business brain assessment. Click on that link and discover exactly where your mind, your unconscious mind, is automatically programmed right now. Because once you know that, then you're able to change it and scale. But I know your business is your mind is your business. Fact. So go find out where it's set to. Click on that link. The other link you need to be clicking on is, what have you got available to you right now? You might have seen it in the incubator group on Facebook. And if you're not in there, get in there because I'm doing a training this Friday. There's going to be so much more video and interaction. So get your butts in there. But what you've probably seen is, Nitro Your New Year. Nitro Your Year. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, then I'm going to put a link in the show notes. You definitely need to be going checking this out. This is my private team mentoring program, which is just over 6 weeks. I've made it as affordable as possible. It is absolutely mind-blowing. It's going to change your whole life and it's going to change your whole year. Fact. We're going to build the neurology, your mind muscle, over 6 weeks to make you perform like you didn't even know was possible inside your life, your business, your income. We're going to get rid of all the blocks that have stopped you, and we're going to reinstall a version of you that I know I've tested on tens of thousands of people, and I know that I'm going to do the same thing with you. So you can, in 6 weeks, look back on now and know that you've created the best version of you possible. You've got in control of your mind, your emotions, that peak state. You can kick ass whenever you want. And guess what? You're going to be in pure flow every single day. That's what's going to create an amazing year. And that's what this 6 weeks program's about. We've got about 5 places left and then we are full. So if you want to find out more about that, check the link out. I also made it, as affordable as possible, and I know it's for you. So go over there, check those links, and click it now. Sound good? Awesome. The other thing we got for you is Stephanie. You might have heard her on the show many times by now. If you haven't, take a little scan back and have a little look. She introduced herself at episode 200, but we've done a few since then. Go and check Sunday Morning Coffee out to get to know her a bit more. But if you're a woman, a lady in business, then we've got a little bit of a spin-off brand. Mindset by Design for Her. Yeah, it's pretty damn cool. It's Stephanie's brilliant side project. The women in there are amazing already. I'm going to put a link to the private group on Facebook so you can get access now. She's got so much content going in there. It's unbelievable. So if you resonate with her, I'm going to put the link there. So there's your 3 options. Option 1, what? Get your business brain assessment. Option 2, go and find out about Nitro Your Year and make this your best year ever. And 3, make sure you connect with Stephanie in Mindset by Design for Her. Oh, and one more thing, I wasn't going to mention it, but I've decided through popular demand to bring on one client, one personal client every single month who can work with me. I'm going to make it affordable for everybody. I'm going to make it affordable for whoever it is that works with me, but you're going to see a private link, a separate link in the show notes, and it's going to be to apply to work with me. That's it. There's little criteria there, but guess what? one person, making it affordable. Why? Because I love you and I miss it. I love working with one-on-one with somebody. So it might be you. So hit those show notes up, click on the link that's right for you. And let's get on with the show. Sound good? Awesome. Right. Shall I shut up and get on with the show? I thought you might say that. I'll see you at the end. Oh, go and hit those show notes right now. So, here we are, crew. Let's settle in. Do you know what? We're going to go through our top 4 hacks or tactics or systems or keys or whatever you want to call it. But the idea is to give you a little bit of insight into the science, the understanding of the brain, and also, some real world tactics that you can use to be able to change your perspective. And what does that mean? You change your perspective, guess what? You're going to be able to take action. So my mission for the next little bit is by the end of this episode is for you to be able to have clarity and take action. Sound good? Awesome. Now, there's a million different tactics I could use. There are a million different systems, but this is a nice 4-step system that I really like, and it's going to give you, just that key understanding. Because once you've got that, things are going to seem much more simple, so you can at least take that first step, right? Like it? Good. The next thing I'm about to tell you, it's not even in the 4 hacks, right? Or the 4 steps. It's not even in them. I'm just giving you a little bit of extra insight. And it is a topic I've covered before on previous episodes. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but I know I've covered it at least once, maybe twice. And it's about understanding about certain principles of chunking, and we're going to get into all of that. But I want you to understand, first of all, is the reason that people can't take action is, and you might resonate with this, is that it's to do with their focus, okay? And what I mean by that is if you're focusing on a journey, let's use this as an analogy, I just made it up. So if you're focusing on a journey and you want to get from New York to California because you want some sun, right? You want some sun. So you want to go from New York to California. Okay. So do you know where you're going? Yeah. You have a clean direction, right? A clear path. And you set off in your car, you'd probably get there, right? But you'd probably get lost and you don't know what the heck's going to happen on the way. But what would happen if we reversed engineered it? If we had looked at all the cities that we would want to visit, if we looked at all the garages or garages to make sure that we can get our car fixed if it breaks down, what would happen if we chose all the hotels along the way that we could stay at and we had all their phone numbers, that was all mapped in, it was all programmed? What would happen? Would we get there faster? Yeah, right? But if we decided to go, let's go across the country, that might seem a little bit daunting, right? What would happen if we wanted to go right round the world? Would that be overwhelming? Yeah, of course it would. What would happen if we broke that down into individual steps? Be easier, wouldn't it? Right. That's what you need to understand about everything. It's called outcome creation and it's called reverse engineering. That's it. So when you start to understand that, I'm going to introduce a principle of chunking here. And what I mean by chunking is that if we chunk up, it means we're at a bigger perspective, right? We're seeing the map. So we're not looking at the individual towns, the garages. We're not looking at the Whole Foods along the way so we can make sure we can rehydrate with some organic food. But we're not checking any of that. We're just looking at the outcome. And the outcome's really important, isn't it? Yeah, you got to know where you need to go, but understand that that could be scary. And if something's scary because you don't know all the details of how to get there, what happens? Right, that creates overwhelm. It creates all of these ideas in your head of what the possibilities might be. And that then creates multiple loops. It changes constantly your focus, and that's going to create or activate the fight or flight response, right? So then it's going to be in a flight or a fear response thinking about the future. That's no good. If you were scared to go and drive across the country, one, because you'd never done it before, two, you didn't know anything about it and you were just going to do it, then do you want to? Yeah. But are you possibly or probably, right, going to procrastinate a little? You might go and check some more brochures. You might do a little research here, go and speak to someone. Maybe you need to go on a trip over here. Maybe you get sick. Maybe, do you see? All of those things are there because your brain's going, I'm stepping out into the unknown. I can't control this. I don't know if I'm safe. Let's just keep doing what we were doing because I know what that feels like, right? I know what that's like. It's my comfort zone. So there's a quick little analogy, a bad story, but you get the idea of why you're not being able to take that first step, first of all. I'm going to show you the science in a second around that principle, but understand that's what's going on. So what we always get told is to focus on the outcome, and it's so important because otherwise what? Well, any road will get you there if you don't know where you're going, so we can spin in circles. And that happens with ideas, concepts. We're at a boundary around our possibility around business, or a lead generation source closes or stops, or Facebook ads don't stop working, or some person lets us down with referrals. You get the idea? So what happens is we immediately go into that fear response. And if you're not clear on the outcome, then we can't walk towards it, which is why we can often get lost in these cycles and loops and the sabotage patterns in business. So by focusing on the outcome, we're going to have a direction of where we need to go. That's step one. But then there's a lot more intricate details about programming of the brain, right? Because what do we have to do next? Yeah, we have to get there. We have to get in the car and we have to go on that journey, right? And we don't know what's going to happen. The tire might explode, right? It's like we might run over a pothole and buckle something. The engine might blow up. We don't know what's going to happen. So when we start chunking the brain down to micro focuses, okay, micro goals, micro moments, what this means is that the brain has small chunks of information that it can handle, it can deal with. Because as human beings, we got to understand something. We are goal-setting machines. Think about this, right? For you to go and make a cup of coffee in the morning, guess what you did? Yeah, you set a goal, and then you accomplished the goal. Then you went to clean your teeth, hopefully, right? And then you achieved that goal. And then you got in your car, then you went to work, or you went to the office, or you closed the deal, or whatever it is. Understand that these are all what? Yeah, goals. So when we start to understand our brain is goal-setting machine, then we've got to use that, right? We've got to use that. Now, there's people out there, and I've had discussions around this in the past, even with clients years and years and years ago, high-end clients, right? And they give it, well, from all of these studies out there, I don't believe in goals. And I was like, that's awesome. And they give it, you didn't expect me to say that, did you? And I was like, well, it's a perspective. But look at this, man. I have a different perspective. And by the way, the reason why people talk about goals that way is because the goal puts a boundary around what is possible. Think about that, right? So by you setting a goal, it is a limit to what is possible. That's what the goal setting thing's about, right? But from my angle, that's cool. What would happen if the goal is staying focused on the next task, right? What would happen if the goal was staying happy and confident? Do you think that'd help? What would happen if the goal was to complete this next simple task, right? That's still a goal. It's an outcome. And so when we start to understand this controversy, when we start to understand what the brain really actually does, then we can use it. And that's what I'm going to get into in a second. Makes sense so far? A bit ranty? You get the idea. So let's jump into step one, number one, and what I call the limited brain. It really is. So let me talk about this, right? Listen, human memory is flawed and limited, says Dr. Gratis. We all know this. We can't remember everything. While memory limits can vary slightly from person to person, recent studies show that our average working memory capacity, working memory that is used for mental tasks, is only 3 to 5 items. Anything more than this is what they call fallout, basically falling out your brain. So let me look at this and explain this a little bit deeper. So let me read a bit of an article from ncbi.gov. It's a pretty awesome site. And if you know what's not awesome is my reading. If you've been there before and listened to this, look, I do my best with the reading. Got a little bit of dyslexia, but whatever, right? Whatever. Let me explain this. Working memory storage capacity is important because cognitive tasks can be completed only with sufficient ability to hold information as it is processed. Makes sense, right? The ability to repeat information depends on the task demands, but can be distinguished from a more constant underlying mechanism. A central memory store limited to 3 to 5 meaningful items. In a famous paper humorously describing the magical number 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information, I can talk about more of that in a minute. That's a classic thing, by the way, in NLP, old school NLP. It's to do with your filter system in your brain. We take in over 2 million bits of information through our 5 senses. It gets filtered through your reticular activating system in your brain, which is your RAS, your filter system, works like Google. And that information gets chunked down to 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information. That's a classic jargony thing NLPers love to say, right? But what this is about is it's explaining it a little bit deeper, because he demonstrated that one can repeat back a list of no more than about 7 randomly ordered meaningful items or chunks, which could be letters, digits, or words. Other research has yielded different results, though. Young adults can recall only 3 to 4 verbal chunks, such as idioms or short sentences. Some have shrugged their shoulders, concluding that the limit just depends on details of the memory task. So, recent research says that, the limit is predictable. The recall limit is important because it measures what is termed working memory, a few temporally active thoughts. Now, you might be going, what the heck are you talking about, Andy? Let me explain. What we are consciously aware of, is simply, or working memory, the things that can be recalled very fast. It's the things that are spinning around our mind that we're doing every day. If you're a parent, then what you're going to have on your mind every day is making sure that kid is safe and making sure maybe they're fed, got to school, things like that. Those are working memories. We're able to bring those up into the conscious mind or on the desktop really, really fast, right? Then we have something in our cache, if we're using computer terms now, a cache, which is our working memory. And then we have what? Well, we have our unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is that's the software, that's the operating system. Does that make sense? I hope so. I hope that makes sense. Maybe it's as clear as mud or clear as murky water. But the point is, your brain's going to get overloaded. It's that simple. It can't literally take on and remember everything that's happening constantly around it. So it tends to form interesting memories that we can't rely on. We just can't, right? So if we rely on our memory, we'll stop at every step of the task and think, what am I supposed to do next? From my side, this interrupts the pattern or interrupts the state or the version of you that you are performing in. Remember, we have very different versions of us, different neural nets, different bubbles, right, of who we are. What I teach is what? The gym version of you is not the same version as the version of you that goes on a date, talks to the mom, or closes the deal. They're very different versions of you, each with different focuses, beliefs, expectations, and chemicals. So when we start to understand that, it changes everything. Because something I teach in private clients and in groups, etc., is that we've got to show you a system to be able to hold your focus on one specific task or theme for as long as humanly possible. Why? Because then I'm able to train your brain and teach you how to drop down into a flow state and then basically, just create massive acceleration and something which I call folding time. Folding time meaning that when things take other people 2 days, you can do it in 6 hours. And it's just because we're able to switch into state and switch into flow. And those are the things I love to teach, right? But when we start looking at the brain, we've got to start to understand that we've got to start programming it the right way. Because if there's all this information is going to come through and we don't understand these basic principles, what's going to happen is it's going to create overwhelm. And if we don't know how to stay in state and in flow, what it's going to do is take us out of that flow and put our brain into different tasks or putting out lots of fires. And if we're putting out lots of fires all day, then guess what? We're never really going to be as productive or as motivated or as driven to get the result that we want. We're just not, right? Because our minds then are in constant change. And we don't want them to be in constant change. What have we just talked about with working memory? Yeah, it's like the cache. We want it to be there. So it's your focus and the conversation or what you're working on is retrieved really, really easy in the brain. Does that make sense? A little bit ranty again, but I hope that makes sense. So number two to help you get over procrastinating is this. We've got to have specifics. Your brain needs to know specifics. It really does. Let me explain, because you have two major projects on your plate, for example, right? You're spearheading the launch of an entirely new website for your organization. You look at it, it seems easy. Guess what? You just got to make a new website, right? But what does that really mean? We need more details. We need when does it go live? Who's involved in the project? What pages are there? Who's doing the copy, right? What images? What color? Is the research out there of people that are already doing this? What's the opt-in? Okay, is it going to convert? Or what are we using for traffic driving, right? Are we using certain keywords? Are we using Google Ads? Are we using PPC? What are we doing? Are we affiliate marketing? Are we JVing? What are we doing, right? So we need to know specifics. Psychologist Edwin Locke in the late 1960s basically created something called goal setting theory. And this is one of the core elements is specificity. In the article Goal Setting Theory published in the Oxford Research Encyclopedia of Psychology, author and professor Gary Latham cites 4 main reasons why specific goals are so powerful. I'll fly through these and then we'll have a little chat, right? So number 1, specific goals force us to make a choice to pursue them and as a result exclude anything that's irrelevant. This increases our focus as well as our sense of purpose in pursuing that goal. Think about that, right? If we can get you so clear on what you're chasing or what you're driving towards or what you're creating, if we can get so clear on that, right? And we start to look at your networks, your environment, the automatic things that are playing through your head, right? How you're setting routines up, how you're even stepping into state. Are you using anchors? What are you saying to yourself? Who's the dominant people around you, right? What are the conversations? When we start looking at that, for an example, right? What happens is, and we teach you how to step into that absolute peak state, right? Not just like, let's pump you up. No, we're talking about designing it and stepping in there with real specifics, right? So when we can do that, what happens is we take up your focuses, right? You spoke about 3 to 5 focuses, right? 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information. So when we start to look at that, then what we've got to understand is the noise starts to disappear. It becomes like a horse with blinkers on, the blinders on the sides of its eyes, so it gets laser focused on what is in front of it, and it can't see the noise or anything that's happening to the left or the right. Because if it did, what would happen? It'd distract it. So when we start to understand this, it's a brilliant, brilliant thing. So by getting clear, by getting specific, it gets rid of all the noise. Makes sense. So the second bit of this, what this Gary Latham says, is similarly specific goals can incite effort, which is another cornerstone of motivation. Well, what the thing that they're missing there, which they need to understand, is it's the emotion or the kinesthetic that is the driver, and this is what I teach in all my programs, it's the driver that changes our state or changes the version of us that we are. So if we want to be calm and we're listening to GABA techno music, probably not going to be calm, right? If we want to be amped up and we're listening to, I don't know, Enya, don't know where this came from. Enya's, I haven't heard that name since I was a kid. But Enya, relax stuff, right? It's not going to work. It's the same if we want to go to the gym and we're watching things about science. It's not going to work. If we want to go to the gym, what do we want? Yeah, we want to watch something martial arts or training or fit people, right? You're going to want to then go to the gym. So having a specific goal, yes, that's brilliant, but understand it's the emotion that I want to create in you that creates the momentum. If you're so passionate about something, so into something, your belief behind why you're doing it is so crystal clear and big and bright in your head, then guess what? The emotion that you're going to be feeling is confident or purpose, and that is going to create it's going to create action, it's going to create drive, it's going to create momentum. So when we start to change the focus of the brain and we start to get rid of the noise and we start to build in the things I spoke about before with environments, etc., this is how we create laser focus, but also massive, massive momentum. Does that make sense? And the next thing Gary's talking about, and I'll put it in my words, of course, but it inspires specific goals, inspire us to be more persistent. Well, it is, right? If we're laser focused on I don't know, if every time you close the deal, a kid was going to get saved, how many deals you closing, right? What's the energy inside of you? What's the cause inside of you? What's the clarity inside of you? You know, you're going to create momentum. You're going to hustle like you've never hustled before because of the purpose. And so if we can get specific on what that is, then the emotion that we build into you is connected to your beliefs, your attitudes, and that means you're going to go and kick ass. Make sense? If it's about something you don't care about or you're not clear on, then you're not going to do it the same way. Make sense? So the fourth little point he brings out, specific goals immediately get our wheels turning on the strategies necessary to attain them. And it's true, right? If the reason why we're doing something is so important to us, it might be getting you away from the pain right now, or it might be building a bigger cause. Whatever it is, we need to be so crystal clear about it because the pain is a great thing, man. If you're going through loads of pain right now, good. And I mean that in the most beautiful way because it allows you to then grow, evolve, change, see a different perspective, create that passion inside of you so you get off your ass and you go and do something. Because otherwise what? We're just going to keep doing the same things. What's Einstein's definition of insanity? Right. So you get the idea. For example, right? In one study, 162 undergraduate students who were asked to perform a computerized hand-eye coordination test. Researchers found a correlation between goal specificity and the level that they actually performed at, right? They found that if one controlled for goal difficulty, setting specific or personal goals resulted in higher levels of productivity. Think about that, right? So if they control the goal difficulty, then they set personal goals resulting in high levels of productivity. So if the goal was set too high, well, guess what? They wouldn't do it. But if the goal was setting these micro moments or these attainable steps, then what would happen is they were able to get it, right? They were able to complete it, which from my side, what that did is that gives a reward mechanism. And the reward mechanism is good old endorphins and serotonin. So when that's flooded through the brain, guess what it makes us want to do? it makes it want to do it again, right? Makes us want to take that next step forwards. So understand what we're doing is we're sequencing lots of mini steps and mini parts and mini bits to the jigsaw puzzle to be able to create momentum. And that's what people don't understand. It's like you can't go from sad to happy, right, in an instant. Well, you can, right, if someone walked into a room that you hadn't seen in years. But in general life, you don't, right? There's stepping stones in between. So it's about changing your focus in steps. It's about changing the emotion in steps. It's about putting yourself around the right people in steps. It's about little mini steps that sequence together to lead a result, to get a result, right? Whether that's you thinking, feeling, and acting a certain way, or it's whether it's your business or a project inside of your business linking together, right? It's the same with your business model. We could look at the whole business model and we'd look at all the steps or the flow of it, and we would look at the structure and we would look at what you want to achieve into it. Who are we hiring? Who are we getting rid of? What role do we need to grow your brain into to be able to have time, for example, to yourself? Or you can think about that higher level business or networking or whatever it is your strength is. Does that make sense? And this leads us to our third hack, point, principle, whatever it is, right? But are you enjoying these so far? I know I'm pumping out a lot of information and I'm running around in circles, but maybe you just need to listen to this again, right? Maybe you need to contact me. Maybe you need to do whatever, right? But hopefully this is, it's linking and layering together lots of principles, because you can take some of these principles and you apply them, you play with them. When you want to get to the next level, then guess what? You can. So let's look at number 3, because number 3 is we've got to keep regular feedback, because, well, what does that do? It keeps us on path. It keeps us on track. And the thing is, bigger projects that span weeks or months, right, or even years, it's very easy to go off track. Think about this. We implement the 2 millimeter rule. This is a nice Tony Robbins rule. But 2 millimeter rule, say you're the captain of your ship, right? And you're heading over there, wherever there is. And you turn that wheel just 2 millimeters to the left. And you now go full steam ahead, but you're 2 millimeters from the destination. That 2 millimeters is going to take you in a ridiculously dramatic, different outcome, right? Different destination. And that's the same with projects. It's the same with relationships. It's the same with everything. If we don't keep adjusting that 2 millimeters, the momentum can take us so far away from where we wanted to go that how frustrating would that be, right? How frustrating would that be to spend months or years on a project and find out it wasn't where you wanted it to go? And that's all because we're not gathering this micro feedback, right? Micro feedback is what? Well, I've just explained. It's these bite-sized chunks that we're able to handle, or these bite-sized pieces, or these mini steps of the big path that we've got to walk down. Because if we walk down them, then guess what? We're walking down the path towards where we want to go. Not rocket science, hey? It's definitely not rocket science. But what it does is gives you the opportunity to receive feedback. This is what weekly meetings should be about inside your business. This is what you every week should be doing if you're a solopreneur. This is what KPI is about. This is what tracking in general is about. Or metrics is about. It's about being able to do what? Yes, get immediate feedback, because if we don't have attachment to the details, we have attachment or to our own performance in the business or the job or whatever the heck you're doing to get towards the outcome. How you get there, that's where we've got to have something called behavioral flexibility. That means we're allowing ourselves to see change, to look for opportunity, to adapt, all to get to the end result. If you're a salesperson listening to this, then it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. You want that feedback. And if you're not closing a deal, then that's okay, right? But we've got to look at when you did close deals and what you were doing inside your head. Then we've got to look at what you're doing now. And then we've got to look at what we're trying to get to. We reverse engineer it. We look at these baby steps, right? And then we create a version of you to be able to perform in each one of these steps. So we drop you into trance, we retrain the visual side of you, or we retrain the nervous system. So it gets you used to responding to a person or an event or a merger or a sales close or going to sleep early or whatever the heck it is, right? Or a certain level of money. When we're able to break and chunk things down into these bite-sized pieces and build everything around it, then we get this feedback fast. If we get the feedback fast, then we're able to tweak it like a race car, and we're able to keep performing at a high level towards our end goal. Make sense? Good. In a study of 157 participants who played a brain training game, it was discovered that negative feedback actually decreased feelings of competence, but still increased immediate gameplay. This is why I love gamification. I do. I love gamification because it really helps people learn. That's what the 8-figure thinkers all built around. I love it, right? So 157 participants, negative feedback decreased feelings of competence, but still increased immediate gameplay. Negative feedback motivated participants to repair their short-term performance, and positive feedback fostered long-term motivation in the participants. So think about that, right? It's also because they wanted to do it, right? If you don't want to do your job or something, then you're not going to be motivated no matter what. But they wanted to get better in this game. But if you treated your business as a jigsaw puzzle or a game that you've got to put together, and if you looked at the same way, your life the same way, right? Putting the pieces together, then guess what? You want to get better. It becomes a game because you know if you do this, you feel this, then you mean you perform like this and you get this. It means you have this creative idea which allows you to do this, which connects to this person. Get it? That's the game, man. And number 4 is that humans, well, we're not too good at waiting for results. We're not, right? We're not too good at this. And as human beings, we're so used to getting instant gratification, especially the way society has been designed around us right now, right? Especially with social media. Years ago, we didn't have that instant gratification or instant results. It was funny, I was watching a program, and it was an older program. It was like from the 80s or something. I can't even remember what it was. But they were finding out information, and there was this big journey to go to the library and find that information out. Think about that, right? You had to go to the library to go and find information, or you had to go to the big encyclopedia books, right? Crazy. We didn't just have it on our phone. So what's happened is this primal thing of what I spoke about earlier, which was we are goal-setting machines. So we have this innate pull to constantly want to complete things. And if things aren't completed, it leaves us with a dissatisfaction. So something that Dr. Gracious says is that you're probably familiar with the satisfied rush you get when you're able to cross something off your to-do list. But what's happening in your brain when you check that box or scribble out? Well, your brain releases dopamine, she says, a neurotransmitter that is connected to feelings of pleasure and motivation. Well, she's correct. But what is missed out of this article, which is kind of very important, is that dopamine is also released on a negative aspect or a negative pattern. Understand that dopamine is released with novelty. This is what's not being told in this. Again, there's a lot of BS in the personal development industry, right? But dopamine is connected to, yes, any novel aspect. So this could be a negative pattern that you're getting dopamine hits more with. So it means you want to chase that pattern, or it could be a positive one. But either way, it's novelty that creates a dopamine release. And when that dopamine is released, it feels good, so it makes us want to do that more. This is how people go into depression. It's still dopamine. You're constantly searching for old ideas in your head, or people when they ripped you off or let you down, or the dog died 20 years ago, right? It doesn't matter. Your brain is then dopamine hitting along that pattern, which makes it easier or more enticing to repeat that behavior. So what tends to happen with entrepreneurs is that because we get overwhelmed, what happens is we're looking for amygdala response, or the fight and flight response, so we go to escape. So that means shiny object syndrome, that means beating ourselves up, that means hanging around with the wrong people, for example. And what that means is that creates novelty, and that creates dopamine hits or dopamine addiction. But if we can create and understand through all of these principles I've taught that we can hold focus towards a business or a path that we want to go down, then what happens is we're creating novelty inside our own business, which means then we can dopamine hit this way. That's the type of chemical addiction that we want, because that's enhancing us. That's creating world-class 8-figure thinker, mindset by design, kick-ass performance. And what they call this in neuroscience is self-directed learning. Okay? So what that means is you like the way it feels, so you'll make the best attempt to repeat that success. That's plain and simple, right? But again, through this whole article, nothing is mentioned about negative dopamine hitting from novelty. I probably need to there's so much on these podcasts that I want to grab and bring out. And by the way, if you're a social media marketer, and you work with Instagram and doing sound bites and things like that, message me. I've got something for you. Andy at mindsetbydesign.co, right? Message me. I'd love to have a chat. So, do you understand now what's going on in your brain more? I hope so. I hope this unlocks and opens you up to think about procrastination a little bit differently. I know it threw a lot at you today. You've done very well. But so what was our 4 points? Well, the first step before we even spoke about 4 points was talking about chunking, right? Understand that we chunk up too big, meaning we focus on the bigger picture too much. We can get overwhelmed because it's just too many details that we're not thinking about. And then what we need to do is we need to reverse engineer it, put it into bite-sized chunks that we're able to walk down. Right. Beautiful. So then we jumped into step one. Step one was what? Understanding that your brain is limited. Plain and simple. It is. Remember, it can only process a handful of information, those 3 to 5 points. And those things were what? Yes, in your working memory, your cache, right? Remember that? Beautiful. So we need to make sure that the things that we're doing are the things that we really want to do. Number 2, we need specific goals. We want that specificness, right? Because the thing is, what does that do? It gets rid of the noise. It gives us ability to complete tasks. And that starts to build what? Yes, a completion pattern in our brain. So we can then do it more. Number 3 is what? We want those mini bites. Why? We want regular feedback. And we want those regular feedback so we're able to in the moment, have behavioral flexibility. Remember the 2 millimeter rule. And we want the behavioral flexibility so we can adapt and change. Why? Because that's what's going to get us our results. What's number 4? Yes, we hate waiting for results. Plain and simple. So what we understand now is about a dopamine hitting. We're either going to go down a negative pattern with the dopamine, or we're going to go deeper into our business and life of growth, because that's novel and that's what we want dopamine hits for. So that's it. So put all those things together. Guess what it means? It means mini bite-sized pieces. It means stepping into the correct state before you even start the day. It means being around the right people. It means watching and listening and learning the right things. It means getting mentors. It means doing whatever it takes to keep your brain firing like a high-performance vehicle and heading towards down the path that you want it to. Plain and simple. Makes sense? Good. I hope so. You might want to listen to this episode again, but you know where to find me. So, crew, here we go. That's the end of episode 220. Hopefully you loved it. If you did, go and write me a review. I'd love that too. It helped me out. It helps the podcast out, and it can help more people out by just doing that one simple thing. So make sure you're heading over to the show notes. You've got quite a few links there. You've got your business brain assessment. Go and take it. Find out where your brain is set to right now. Guess what else we got? Yeah, we've got the Nitro Your 6-week private mentoring team with me. I've made it as affordable as possible. Go and click on that link. It's got all the details. I actually got a 20-minute showcase me explaining all about it. And if it's for you, you can jump in right there. What else we got? We got a link there for Mindset by Design for Her. Stephanie's brainchild, and it's pretty damn awesome. If you're a woman in business or just a woman who wants to kick ass, that is the place for you. Click on that link. And then we've got the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is what? Me handpicking one person to come and be my private client each month. It's epic, right? Why? Because I love coaching. I kind of missed it. And I'd love you to be that person. So yes, there is an application form, but guess what? I've made these packages as affordable as I possibly can for people. So hit those show notes. Click on the link that's right for you. And let's do something different this year. Let's go and kick ass today. Let's make this year your best year ever. Okay, so click on those show notes, and until the next time we connect, much love, and oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.